Welcome. It's 9 a.m. Central European Time, and welcome to this webinar, SAP Cloud Integrations for B2B-connections. And the subtitle is A Guide to Migrations from PO to Integration Suite. My name is Daniel Graversen, and I'm from BizBrains, as you can see over here. You can check us out on bizbrains.com after the webinar. What you will find out is that BizBrains is all about the platform BizBrains Link, which is an integration platform that enables you to also include your business users and the support and help desk and so on in the day-to-day work with integrations. You will hear more about Link in the second half of this webinar. I'm not alone in the studio. Here next to me, we have Pau Pedersen.
Yes.
Would you present yourself?
Yes, my name is Pau Pedersen. I'm a CTO here at BizBrains, and I'm also one of the initiator of our product Link.
Look at this camera. Sorry, everyone. I forgot to tell Pau which camera to look.
I'm here today to tell you a little about how you can make sure that your integration does not become a black box and gets more visible to the business, and show you a little demo of Link at the end.
Yes, and Pau will be the speaker for the second half. And we have another guest, and that is this guy, Daniel Graversen, a celebrity from the SAP community, at least in the integration space. Daniel, will you present yourself and also your company, Figaf?
Yes, thanks for inviting me. It's always interesting to talk about these topics about how to automate things, how to make things better for customers' experience. So my name is Daniel. I've worked with SAP integration for a long time. I actually worked together with Pau on one of our first projects, and that was quite interesting. Now we work on making it easier to manage SAP integrations in Figaf.
Thank you. And just a comment for you who are watching. There's a Q&A panel in Link, and if you want to ask a question to Daniel or to Pau or even to me, then you can post it in the Q&A section. Not to confuse with the chat section. The Q&A is the one that I have a screen just outside the picture here, and I will keep an eye on that, and then I will merge your questions into the flow. So please do that. But with that said, Daniel, you can do the presentation, and I will bring it up here. Are you ready?
Yep, I am.
Here it is.
Cool. Yes. So let's talk about a little about the migration PI to PO to integration ship. We do talk a lot about this because it is a large topic about how to manage this, and I think most of the time when we start talking about it, there's also the topic. Okay, we have all of these B2B interfaces. How is that going to happen? And that's why I think this is a great opportunity to get some other inputs about what can be done if you want to make your B2B integration in a different way. Let's see if I can get started. So I want to cover a few things here. Your migration chute, or how to migrate, how the Figaf tool can help you in this process. We'll talk about B2B in integration chute, so not go too much into details on this. And then we'll look at Link, and that is where Pau will be talking a lot more about what that can look like. And questions, just put them into the Q&A, and we'll try to cover those as we go along. This is probably going to be a little quick. Feel free to reach out on Figaf if you have more questions on these things. So we started out about 7 years ago creating tools to make testing easier. Testing is an important part of any project, and that was a good place to start. Then we expanded the portfolio to cover a lot other topics like governance, transports, cloud integration, API management, and the last year was like 2 years ago, we added the support to migrate from PI to CPI, cloud integration. And I guess I will be using the term CPI, cloud integration, and integration suite interchangeably. But yeah, it's kind of the same product. So whenever we get started to do any type of setup, it is interesting to create an assessment to understand, okay, so what is it that you have in your landscape currently? We created as a part of one of the services in the Figaf tool, is an assessment that will give you a list of all the different iFlows that you have or integrations that you have. So you get an Excel report that you can take out and go through all of these different things. So yesterday I was talking with a client where I showed them this, and they said, oh, we just spent a couple of days creating a report like this, and now we get it with much greater details. So it's a good way to get started with a migration and understanding the scope, how many partners, etc. you have. And I think before you do any type of take the shovel into the ground and start building your new integration, what does it look like? It obviously makes sense to do some projects and figure out what is it that we want this to look like. What kind of options do we have? How does our S4 project fit into this? SAP also uses the ISA-M methodology to give you some idea where you can say, for these type of patterns, this is how we deal with the integrations. And obviously, as a part of this, you need to understand, okay, so what is the B2B concept that we are going to be using? And this is where I think BizBrain links have some opportunity that makes some things a little easier. So what is it that the Figaf tool can do? So when you're looking at a migration, there's a number of features that the tool will do. It will take a number of icons. You can select what type of So we're basing the tool on the iCore receiver determinations that you have in the system. Based on this, we can do filtering and figure out which flow to create for these things. You can also reuse the previous migrated content. It will create local processes for its receivers, so it's easy to build in error handling, retry these kind of things. And then, we build in a GMS setup that would allow you to actually restart asynchronous messages that fails. We have some channel mapping with XSLT to make those things a little easier. And then we are, based on customer input, trying to improve the tool so it fits the different requirements that you have. For message mappings, we also go into a lot of details here. I will not cover all of these things, but I think the main one, and also if we start to talk about a B2B, is user-defined function, taking those over and enabling you to use the mapping as it is. There are some differences between the CPI, the cloud integration, and the PI functions that you need to manually adjust, but since the artifact can be reused, you only need to make that modifications once. There's some differences between these. So SAP is also providing a tool. It was released here in beginning of 2023. It's based on some fixed templates. It currently supports 7.5. 7.31 and 7.4 is supported later. And there's also a roadmap item to support function libraries. And it is going to be interesting to see how that will work. And we will need to see how we will adjust our functionality to also leverage that. Testing is obviously a huge part of this. So since we started out as a testing tool, This is something that we've built into the platform, so it's really easy to test this. And our idea is we want to move the testing as close to the developer as possible. So whenever you're doing the development, you can actually rerun all the test cases you have and be able to see, does this work as you'd expect it or not? And then, you want to avoid involving partners too much in the testing, which is obviously a little challenging if you go into an EDI scenarios, but at least you want to make sure that all your mappings and documents are created correctly. Then, so you just need to test the connectivity. Cool. Let's just do a short demo. So the idea here is that we have the Figaf tool, and this is a standalone Java application. You can deploy it in B2B, Cloud Foundry, which we normally recommend as an easy way to get it started. We have our migration dashboard here, and here you can see all the different icons that you have in your landscape. We can go in and generate this report based on the icon that we have. And when we do this, we get an overview that looks like this. What are the different scenarios, mappings, modules, operation mappings, function libraries, parameters, all of these different kind of things that is interesting for migration, and also message runtime statistics. Good.
Daniel, I have a question.
Yep.
Here from the studio. You said you could deploy it in different ways. This tool, is it related to how you have deployed your SAP installation, or doesn't that matter?
It does not matter too much for a migration scenario. You can run it locally on a laptop for proof of concept, or on a server you have in your organization. All depends on your cloud strategy.
And the connection to SAP, is that set up?
So if you deploy it in B2B Cloud Foundry, you can use the SAP Cloud Connector to get access to the backend data systems.
Okay.
So this is a really simple way to deploy it.
Great.
Cool. So here we have an icon. What I want to do is I want to migrate this. So I would select this icon. I would call this, give it a name, link. I would then select what are the profile we have. Do I want to have retry into this process? And then we can check, do we have all the different artifacts as a part of this? Here we can see the communication channels that is used in this icon. We can see, do we have what kind of scenarios we have here. We can say we do not want to send it to this async one because we would be using that in a different scenario. And then we can see all the different artifacts, and we get a list of the different things we need to check out when we're doing this migration. We will preview it. We can then see the process that is being created. We can see all the different local processes. And then we will click migrate. So this will create an iFlow, all based on the content that we have in this scenario. We can see here it creates we have a starting process where it calls to different local soft processes based on the routing you have in your ICO. We can see it creates the one for the receiver destination, one for one of the receiver and one for the other one. And we have an error handling that sends it into a GMS if it is something that can be restarted. And then it builds also a restart flow that would allow you to actually process messages in a simple way. Let's just deploy it. And then let us test it. So let's see if I find it here, this one. Migrate test cases. We will select this one, migrate test cases, add to test case. So just scaling. So it knows where to check these messages. And we can run this. Which will then trigger these messages we found from our peer system. and send them into the cloud integration system. We can see the result of this test. And obviously the width is a little fast. We can see there is a error here, which I guess is a timestamp. And we can just go in and ignore this timestamp, perform our check again. And now we can see everything is green. Everything worked as we expected it to do. So now we have a way we can complete this migration, move it into production with the tool or however we want it. We have a number of different editions. So we do have a free migration edition that will allow you to get the assessment, use this overview, and you would also be able to test the migrations. And then we have a capability to migrate. This was what you saw here. It created the iFlow. And we also have a DevOps that will allow you to transport. This is a little longer discussion, but really also something that helps in your projects. Cool. Getting to the topic of B2B. So SAP is also adding the trading partner management into the integration suite. And I can see it was also just updated here in the March release. I have not gone into details about it to understand what is it completely that it does. I think it started out originally that you needed to use the integration content advisor as a part of this, but I've also seen customers use the migrated ICOs or ICOs that they have mapped manually as a way for handling this. And I think this is an important part. You want to be able to, at least from a migration perspective, you want to be able to reuse your message mappings in a simple way, because that is where you have most of your value for these scenarios. So yeah, reuse of the message mappings. You can also set up some trading partner management and flow into the TPM. And you need a way for update these message mappings to fetch these partner information and put it into this flow. And yeah, I have not looked into these, so I'm sure we will be also looking into how we can leverage these things. But coming into the link and where I see this makes it really a useful fun, and I think this is where Paul will also show a little about what they're actually doing, is to take the link away or the EDI handling away from the integration team and over to an EDI organization that can add partners, onboard them, and handling all of these different scenarios. It's also, giving the business user a better way to monitor what are the messages we have had, archive it, etc. This is about mapping the partners and also having a good way of adding S2 connectivity and all the other ways that you would connect to these partners. We do not have a fully developed solution that says, here, this is how you can run your EDI. We can take it from the PI. So this is obviously going to be a journey if you decide to go with Link and see this could help you. So this would be like, how do we migrate from PI to some iFlows that makes sense for a Link setup? We want to be able to replace if you have used trading partner management in the CP in the PI or PO system, how would you use that to or how would you replace those functions with some Link functions? There's some way of updating the mappings, and then obviously we should be able to test it. So you can take your existing PI mappings and replay it using the Link setup, and thereby be able to see, okay, it is producing the same result. No need to do a lot of work with our partners. I think that was what I wanted to share. I don't know if there's any questions. Otherwise, we can obviously take those also at the end.
I have one, Daniel. There's no questions in the Q&A as far as I can see, so please don't hold back. Just put them in there. But I have one. I'm just curious about the status of this migration from PIPO to integration suite. Is it where are we at?
I think a lot of the customers we talk with is, okay, there's obviously some that have started and is already completed with it, but I think there's also the part that say, okay, we need to figure out how to do this. What is the easiest way to leverage these scenarios? And it is obviously going to be something that we will see a huge spike in 23 or 24 or 25, because we have a deadline in 27 that I think a lot of customers will figure out, okay, so how do we actually migrate before that?
And of course, the end of life for PIPO is a huge motivator. But what else? Why if you are using PIPO and you're basically happy with that, then what is the main arguments for doing the switch to integration suite now?
So I think that there is something on the operation. So for a number of customers, it is easier to operate a cloud service. You just develop and run it. And then there's also the flexibility that it provides, that in a CPI flow, it is really fixed about what you, or in a PI flow, it's really fixed what you can do. So you only have like one mapping steps. And that means it becomes a little challenging to do some of these more processes you would do in a cloud world about uploading something else, and check the status of these things. So it is more about being ready for the cloud that is going on. And also, I guess, being ready for your S4 HANA projects, because that is also going to make, okay, we need to have a lot of new migrations or not a lot of new integrations going on in these scenarios.
Yeah, okay, I see. Okay, but then let's give the word to Pau.
Yes. So
are you ready? Then I will.
Yeah, I will just
put your PowerPoint on here.
Yeah, I'm ready with my PowerPoint too. Yes. So I'm going to talk a little about how you can actually improve your B2B integrations with SAP together with Link. So what Daniel was talking a lot about is this: how can we easily do the migration, and maybe there is a chance here to actually step a bit back, especially for the B2B scenarios. If you have challenges like it takes too long to onboard our new B2B partners, or we want to make sure that support doesn't end up in the business and so on. So maybe you should take a step back for the B2B integrations and see, is there actually a chance here to improve it regarding making the integration platform less of a black box. I already done the introduction. So the agenda for my PowerPoint here is, first I'm going to talk a bit about how can we improve the usability of our different mappings, so we don't end up having a lot of different mappings for the same EDIFACT D96A invoice format with only a slightly differences. I'm also going to talk about what about when I move to cloud platform. Should I reconsider if I do direct connection? Should I only do VANs connections? Should I do both, or what should my strategy be? And then, of course, I'm going to focus about what is important regarding making sure your integration platform doesn't end up as a black box. How can I make sure that I get more self-service into the business, and that the documents flowing through our integration platform is actually visible to the users as well. And at the end, I'm going to do a small demo of our product Link with the focus on these transparency issues. So regarding usability, first of all, one of the things to improve reusability is to avoid hard codings in mappings. So when you do mappings between different formats, it's likely that you have different code lists. It could be allowance codes, charge codes, it could be unit of measurements, or other stuff that you actually need to convert from internal SAP list to standard ISO list, or to a format-specific list. And instead of just hard-coding those into the mappings, which will require a developer each time this list is extended, it would be a good idea to put it into a conversion table. And of course, it would be an advantage also if this table is accessible from from the users, so that it doesn't require a developer to actually maintain these kind of information. In Link, we have this easy options of creating new conversion tables. We can add columns. We can add mouse over hints of what is the different purposes of the different columns. So it will make it easier, and then we can access this from the mapping. If the mapping is done in SAP CPI, we can pass this information on, or we can make it possible to look up from the SAP CPI mapping.
I have a question here, and it might be for Daniel. Now Pau is saying SAP CPI. Is that the same as Integration Suite?
Yes, and all those things. Well, Integration Suite is like the overarching product, and then you have cloud integration as one of the services. You have training partner management as a separate service, and then the cloud integration is also, was previously called CPI, but it is a hard time updating these terminologies because they change from time to time.
Yeah, and I know I already asked you during the rehearsal, but I was just to make sure that everyone is aware that what Pau is saying is CPI. It might have a new name.
Yeah.
And just one more, and this is not a serious question, but SAP or SAP?
I'm not sure.
So you say SAP as well?
I think most of the time I'm asked to do SAP.
Sorry, that was just me. Back to Pau.
Yes. So the next thing regarding the reusability is that sometimes you need to put in a choice, because, I mean, we do see that even though we have standards, there are some segments or some information in the format that only some partners want to have, and others will actually have problems receiving this information. So instead of ending up having two different mappings to the same format, this could be possible to actually send out to the users when they pick a format. The options available in the mapping can pop up, and again, in this case, it's an at ultimate delivery party that has a mouse over text about, if you check this, it will add the ultimate delivery party section in the outgoing format. And it could be other stuff like we need to remove zero lines, or we need to move the buyer party to the invoicee party, or whatever kind of option that could be necessary to implement in the mapping to avoid having different mappings for the same format. And the last thing is maybe there are actually information that we need in this output format that we don't have in SAP today. It could be stuff like in Germany, they often would prefer to have an EDI contract number in the EDI message, and we don't have that, and we don't want to have that kind of information in SAP. So instead of hard coding it in the mapping again, it can be registered as a new field here in the configuration key section below the partners, and it's easy for the users to put in his EDI contract number, and it's easy to get this information when doing the mapping. And again, this is something that would normally be passed on to the SAP mapping if it was SAP doing the transformation. And regarding the success here, it's not just about removing the hard coding from the mappings. It's also about making it visible to the partners and making sure it only shows in the right places, and it's clear what is actually the impact of these configuration values. Next item was should I do direct connections or VANs? And in our opinion, you often need a VANs provider, and we do think that strategy is most likely to have a VANs in some cases. But there should be an internal strategy about when should I use a VANs, when should I use a direct connection. And in my opinion, especially if you're talking about, Dennis.
I need to do this because then you are facing the camera a little more. But it was not to interrupt with this, but to interrupt with the VANs. Just to explain to everyone that a VANs is what you could also call an EDI service provider. We won't mention any names, but there are some large ones out there, and they are that was a big thing in the 90s, and it's still around, and it makes sense, as Pau said, most of the time. But just to make sure that when we say VANs, we could also say EDI service provider. Is there any other names for these guys?
I think those are the two most.
Yeah, trading partner networks maybe could also be a thing.
And in newer situations, the PEPL network and the NIMHAN network is also something that would normally be accessible to a service provider or VANs.
Yeah, and how about SAP Ariba? Would you consider that a VANs? Or is that something different?
I think it's something different because I don't think that they... I mean, I'm not sure actually if it could be considered.
It is in some ways. It's a VAN. It's a trading partner network, but it can also do extra things that VANs normally can't do, like matching invoices with orders.
I think in most cases they will always have one of the partners as a customer that they actually handle business logic for and transformations and stuff like that. Where traditional VANs is often about just moving, like the mail system, moving just the documents from point A to point B. Yeah. And then, of course, there can be additional.
Thinking about it, I would actually say Ariba is a VANs with extra functionality.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to your PowerPoint.
Yes. Okay. So regarding when should you choose a VAN, if it's smaller partners, if they only support bad protocols like email, X400, if they need to exchange through PEPL and NIMHAN, that would be considerations to when to actually use a VANs network to send this information or EDI documents. But in situations where you have a large enterprise partner, you have good protocols like SFTP, S2, S4 to choose from. You have a high transaction volume, and maybe you also have a need for speed. You need to make sure you don't get any delays exchanging these messages, because maybe it's orders that need to actually be processed the same day. It's dispatch advices that needs to make sure it ends up at the recipient before the truck actually arrives with the goods. So in these cases, it might also make sense to consider direct connections. Integration black box is our new topic here, and probably the main topic for today in my session. One thing is, be careful of outsourcing everything. It could leave your entire company in the black and would leave you vulnerable for the dependency of an external partner when it comes to supporting your B2B flows.
And just to add that, in this context, outsourcing could mean leaving everything to this VANs that we just talked about.
Yeah, and of course, it in some cases it will not leave you entirely in the dark, because often there are some kind of self-service supplied, some tracking tool or something like that available. So it's not. That's why you can see it's not totally dark. It's just the lights are dimmed, because you can get a list of what has happened, but then you cannot do so much more about it. Exactly, but also, I would say that it's also important that you don't leave the rest of the company in the dark. So often what we see when people build complex integration solutions, it doesn't really matter if it's SAP CPI or what kind of integration platform they have chosen. Often the IT department is the one who will be mostly in the light. They're the one that has the insight to what's going on, who can actually see what fails and so on. And the problem here could be that the other part of the business needs to go to IT each time they have a question. Where did my document go? He says it's not delivered. Why doesn't it contain this information? And so on. And here I think that the important part of my session here today is we want to make sure that the entire company has the necessary insights to what's going on in the integration platform, so that we could, for instance, make sure that when you send out a invoice that is failing because of a missing GT number, it doesn't involve having IT a part of that problem. It could be routed directly into the department that takes care of maintaining GT numbers on your items, and so on. And also when the sales department get a question, why haven't you sent an order response, that they have some insights about, they can actually see that they received the order and so on. So regarding this integration black box, to introduce transparency to your company, it's easy. It's important that you make tracking something that is available to different parts of the company, and not necessarily tracking as they can see everything, but tracking as they are able to see the documents that they should have access to. In some cases, it also makes sense to make it possible for the business to create new partners. Maybe it's just a support organization. Maybe it's an EDI sales specialist or logistics specialist or something like that. It depends on the size of the company, how many different departments they have that should be able to create new EDI partners. But the idea here is that when we have the mappings in place, we have the transport protocols, it shouldn't have to involve IT or development to actually set up new connections with new partners, because this should be pretty easy to do. And the last thing about error handling, make sure that not all errors in your integration platform ends up in IT, because it is very likely that when you do the mappings, you can see that there are required fields in the destination source format that are optional in the source. And the business often say, well, don't worry about that, because this will always be filled out for this partner. And of course, you know that's not always going to be the case. And again, you don't want to support these kind of errors.
Daniel, you're smiling. Have you seen this happen?
I've just seen it too many times that this is, you do something, set the IT or integration team to do it, and then they always just come back with, or you find all of these errors and you kind of say, okay, business, there's a problem here, go fix it. We cannot do anything with it. And then at some point in time, you just become numb to these things and say, hey, I don't care about this anymore. They always fail. They don't do anything about it. And then it's like, you get a lot of errors that shouldn't be there.
And functionality like this that is in Link, I know for the, you could say, the old TPM in SAP, the one, the one that we're used to, doesn't really have this functionality. How about when you move to Integration Suite? Is there any enhancements, or is it the same story? Or
I have not looked too much into it, so I cannot give you a good answer on it. But there, I think it is the SAP one is focused a lot on the IT integration department, not as much on giving access to the business users to manage these things. I think you can probably build a layer on top of the platform to expose it, but then you need some other platform to maintain also.
Yeah, of course, you can always build on top, and that goes for all the other integrations platforms as well, that if you want to involve the business, then you have to build something.
That was actually the reason why Link, why we started Link 10 years ago, was that every time we had these different companies we did integration for, even though the integration platform supported like error handling and tracking, it turned out that those were mostly for IT department, and we ended up building archive because there was also different needs for how long should we archive different document types.
Yeah.
There was the need for enabling the business to look into this themselves as well. So we ended up building custom solutions each time, and that's why we ended up.
Yeah, and that seems to still. Maybe we should look into give SAP the benefit of the doubt and look into the new system. But that normally that is the question with almost any, or I would say any integration platform that I have seen.
Yeah. So also it would be important to look into the archive time. Can I differentiate about how long do I actually keep different kind of documents? Often there is legal requirements for how long should I keep an invoice, and you don't want to maybe save all the orders in 10 years because you have to save the invoices that long and so on. So it should be possible to differentiate how long you actually keep different kind of documents for integration. And of course, control access restrictions, so you can make sure that people get access to only the data that they are required to see in the integration platform. In these GDPR days, this is especially important. And the last thing is error handling. Make sure it ends up in the correct place. So this is also important when you have a customer that contacts you for a question that could be where's my order response, that you have a first line of contact that can actually help him, and who is not dependent on having to contact first the support and then the development department and at least maybe IT DevOps team to find out what actually happened here, because that way it could take a long time to actually give him this kind of answer. So make sure that these kind of requests don't involve having to bother a lot of different people in your organization, but also help your partner with a quick answer instead. Yeah, and I think I said that this is what we see, that tracking, configuration, and error handling is often part of integration platforms, but often for highly technical people. So my next thing here is just a quick demo of our product Link. So yeah, Dennis, if you just switch to the studio, I will just find my...
Jump into a browser and you can close that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
One moment, I just need to...
Yeah, and while Pau is finding the Link demo, then I can just say that we have a question here from Jakob. It's a very SAP-oriented question, so I will find just a message to you. Jakob, it's not forgotten. I'll take it when Pau has done the demo, and then we'll probably have Daniel trying to answer.
Yes. Okay, so you can share my screen again, Dennis.
Yes.
Okay, so when you log on to Link, you will have different menus and different access depending on the permissions you have. You can log on with based on your AD groups you're part of, or it could be Link users. I will just focus on the tracking part as one of the areas, because this is where this is the menu point that most people would have access to in the organization to be able to see data going through Link. If they just go to the search page here, there would be some default fields they can use to actually find a document. It could be the document number, which would be the main number of a document. If you're searching for an invoice, it would be the invoice number. If you're searching for an order, it would be the order number, and so on. But it could also, in this case, if I have the need to find a document with the number 4711, I can do a search, and in this case, I found a sales invoice that was exchanged yesterday. I can open it, and I can see the details about these transactions. I can see what partner it was from, what partner it was to. I can see the original file we received. In this case, it was an IDOC document. I can see we started out with transforming it into a canonical data format, which is this integration pattern that we recommend here at BizBrains, where we don't do direct mappings from IDOC because, as you can see here, IDOC can be difficult to comprehend, and Edifact is also so. So if you have direct mappings from IDOC to Edifact, it can get pretty complex to do those. Where if you introduce this CDM in the middle, you have a more loosely coupled system, and it's easier to maybe actually change from IDOC if SAP introduces some other mechanisms, or if you have other countries running other ERP systems than SAP, then you can actually have different internal formats, but reuse the different formats to the customer mappings.
And Pau, just a question here, because I get this question a lot when I talk to potential new customers about this CDM.
Yes.
How do you construct a CDM? Is it something that is built into Link, or?
So the CDM concept is actually about making it your internal format. So it's not about taking like a UBL document or any standard and saying this is my CDM. It's about having a format that only contains the information that is relevant to your business, and that doesn't have a lot of data that is only relevant to other kind of businesses or countries that you don't exchange data with, or something like that.
So it's something that the Link user, the SAP user, can define their own CDMs.
They can define their own CDMs, and we recommend doing that. But of course, we also have templates. I mean, often when you look at a sales invoice, for instance, you have a specific kind of structure. You have some header, you have some parties, and so on. And of course, to do this from scratch each time probably doesn't make sense. But it would make sense to start from our templates, for instance, and then adjust them so they only contain data that is relevant to you. And it's also on this CDM level that you could build in advanced validation, like making sure that validation that cannot be implied in the schemas, if the sum of the lines matches the the total and so on. And it could also be possible to put in a style sheet on the CDM level so you get a more printable view of the data here.
Yeah, and what you just showed there was an attempt to make a nice invoice.
Yeah, that is just a simple style sheet applied on the XML for the CDM. And in here we have the flow where we had the original file. We looked into the iDoc, but we also can see the end document that was actually delivered to this partner. In this case, it's an EDIFACT file that looks like this. So this was one way of using the tracking where we actually search for a specific document number, but maybe you don't have the document number. Maybe you know you're searching for a purchase invoice, and when you pick a specific document type here in Link, you can actually get additional tracking fields, and this could be even line level data like a GSIN number. But in this case, I'm searching for a purchase order with a specific purchase order number. So in this case, you can put in your purchase order number here, and I will find, well, I did have a purchase invoice with this purchase order number here. When you open the document, it is possible to actually see here the tracking fields that was extracted for this specific document to be found. And it could also be that, well, I'm just interested in seeing the last documents that went through the system. So I'm just seeing what has been exchanged today. And in this case, it will show you base grouped with a panel for each document type. And I can click on a specific document type. I can see the documents exchanged. I can double click to see the details, or I could use the columns to group it so I can see, well, I did send 35 invoices today to Sunflower Shopping Mall. And of course, still expand this one and go into the details about what was actually exchanged here. So this tracking mechanism is easy to use, also from the business. It is possible to introduce deep links from source systems as well. So you can actually jump to a document that was sent out of SAP. And I guess, the last thing is that if you're using a data group restriction, you can also restrict what kind of documents they can see, and if they are actually able to see the document itself or only the information that the document was exchanged.
So data groups that's groups of employees and colleagues that can do specific things.
Yes, exactly. So data groups can be used to restrict data based on either the document type or the partners that is used to exchange this data. So in some companies, they want to make sure that when they have a support team sitting in Germany, they cannot see any invoices from Denmark or so on. So they could make sure that they group the German companies in one data group and Danish customers in another, and then only grant access to the German data group when granting access to a supporter in Germany. Mm-hmm. So this was regarding tracking, and I can see that time is going fast. It's all these questions, Dennis.
Sorry.
So the last thing that I just wanted to show here was, in this case, where you actually have already set up some document types, some formats, and you actually need to create a new trading partner because you want to do EDI with a new partner. The process in Link would be to go to this partner section, create a new partner. And you need to at least give him one way of identification here when you create him. Is
it possible to enlarge a little bit?
I can zoom.
Yeah.
Maybe this is better.
Yeah.
And if you're running with data group restrictions, you also need to say, well, this is a sales. You need to pick a group that he's placed in. So now we have created a new partner, and he's actually ready to use for doing integrations. Normally, there would be some maybe additional identifiers. When it comes from SAP, it's account number. When it comes from the customer, it's a DLN number or whatever. So you would add these identifiers here. You would add any contacts needed. Configuration keys, this is where I showed you the EDI contract number, for instance, that could be possible to add here. And if you're not using a global location like Avance or Pebble, you could add a new location. If you want to, for instance, exchange using AS2, you would pick this one and say AS2, give it a name. And in this case, I'll just set the retry count to 0. Need to fill out a URL I have an endpoint set up here at our test site, so I'll just copy the URL for this AS2 endpoint. And I want a signed MDN back. And I want also to specify the AS2 ID for the sender and for the receiver of the document. So now I have specified an AS2 location that can be used for sending data to this partner. I just need to add a certificate to do this. And I have a public certificate here for my recipient partner, so I will put this up. Say it should be valid from today for AS2 usage. And now I'm ready to actually do exchange data to him. If I wanted to create an FTP account, I could do it right in here. If I needed to add any conversion table data, that could be the unit of measurement, I can add it here. And even if I wanted to overwrite, by default, it might be LTR, but for this specific partner, it's something else. I can do it here. And if I want to tag this partner with an easier way to find him, this is a customer, maybe it's onboarding initiated, I can add tags for him as well. Last thing I need to do is to actually send something to him, I need to set up a distribution. In Link, you get an easy overview. If you just do a search, you get an easy overview of what kind of distribution do we actually have. So in this case, I want to send him an invoice. I can see here the different distributions we already have in Link. I can, again, work with this. I can group it based on the two formats. See, we have 48 sending a de facto invoice and 14 for UBL and so on.
And I can just add that a distribution, you could also call it a channel or an integration or a flow. So it's like, something that is set up, and now you can do transactions through this channel.
Yeah, so
we call it a distribution.
The idea is here that this should be possible for a user to set up, but depending on his choices, the developer would actually have picked the mappings it's going through and the configuration for the mappings. So in this case, I want to set up a new distribution for a sales invoice. It should be enabled. This is from my Contoso partner, and to this new SAP customer demo partner. And again, for locations, I have the black ones is the ones that is specific to this partner, and in this case, I created this AS2 location. So let's pick this one. If I want to generate a control, I can check here. If I expect a control message back and don't want this message to be completed before, I can check it here. I can pick the from format and to format, and of course, often there would only be one format here in the from section. But maybe if you are a large company, you have different countries using different ERP systems. In that case, you might have both AX, Dynamics AX formats, and you could also have, of course, IDOC format as the internal format, and you can pick between different outgoing formats like EDIFACT, UBL, and of course, this is where the developer would need to add new formats. And in some cases, these kind of formats, like the simple invoice here, it can pop up with additional configurations that only applies to this mapping. I want to send this out as an EDIFACT. And there are some advanced options of choosing file names or encodings or duplicate check, and for adding batching if we need to batch stuff together. In this case, I'll just save my distribution as it is. And if I have a test file for the IDOC format, I can take this IDOC document and upload it in my test system. It will ask you, do you want to go to the document details regarding this document? And I can say, yes, please. It will go to the document details. And in this case, you can see that, well, it has saved the interchange in. It is in status inbox. If I view my interchange in, I can see this is the IDOC that was actually uploaded to the system. And hopefully when I refresh, you can see now this has been processed. I can see the details about the end format that was delivered to the partner look like this. And I can see down here the AS2 log that was used for exchanging this data. I can see the MDN that was acknowledged from the recipient partner, so I know that it is the correct partner that received the data and that he received exactly the same data that is present here in the interchange out.
Well done, Pau. I'm almost clapping my hands because I, to be honest, I was a little nervous about this live demo because, as we all know, it works when you rehearse, and then when you're live, it doesn't. But it was perfect. So that was great. You have a few minutes left.
Yeah, so the only thing left on my item today was actually to just show you quickly about error handling, because, of course, errors can happen in different places in your system. You can also raise errors into mapping. And in the settings section here, we have this error handling, where you can see the different error categories that has been created. And for each category, if you expand this, there needs to be a default for the category. In this case, it's the supporter, but maybe for different document types and for specific error codes, like this one, error while validating the incoming document, there might be other stakeholders picked to be the one that received the information with the link to the failed document. In this case, for a sales order, for instance, we have said this should be delivered directly to the sales department. They should get an email notification, and also they should be using the urgent notification method, because it is a sales order. We want to react fast on this one, where in other situations we might not be that urgent, like maybe a purchase invoice isn't urgent. So you can set up different kind of stakeholders and work with this here in the error handling part. And I think this was what I had planned to show, at least today. There is a lot more to show about Link, but that's...
Yeah, of course, but feel free to reach out to us afterwards if you want to go into details with both what Daniel told us and also what Paul told us. We are running a little late, so I think we do it like this. There's a couple of questions here, and if you have to be in a meeting in 3 minutes, then feel free to leave and attend that meeting, and then we'll just continue for 5-10 minutes and do the questions and rounding off, and then you will get a link to the recording, and then you, if you need to be at a meeting in a few minutes, then you can go back and see just the last part with the questions. So goodbye to everyone who needs to run off and get a coffee for the next meeting, and then thank you to Pau, and thank you to Daniel, and let's move into the question section. And as I mentioned, Jakob, I'll just read it aloud, and Daniel, you listen carefully. Good morning. I have a question with regards to the topic of the webinar, a guide to migrating from SAP PIPO to SAP Integration Suite. Should we rather migrate each integration using EDI separator to corresponding iFlow, or rather use pre-built content from SAP, for instance, Cloud Integration Trading Partner Management?
It obviously depends on a lot of the scenarios that you have, but I do think that it is most if you start out, so my vision of this is that if you started out using or building out a new EDI framework, you'd use Cloud Content Advisor, Integrated Content Advisor, this tool that allow you to build the mappings between different structures. And I guess you could also add the canonical versions in here, depending on what you want. But I think if you already have a lot of EDI in your PIPO system with a lot of mappings, you want to reuse them. There's not a lot of value in converting them to a new format, recoding everything and starting out from scratch. We've done that a few times, but I don't really see that it is adding a lot of value. There could be cases where it makes sense. So if you're removing from ECC system to an S4 system and move to some of the services, you may consider let's recode everything using this new approach.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. I hope, Jakob, that was a good answer. I'm not the one to judge because I'm not into these details. Otherwise, please. Oh, Thank you. I take that as a yes. Then we have a question here from Henriette, and that is addressed to Pau. If a document fails, for instance, a mapping error, would it then be possible to see the full error message in Link instead of the current setting where you need to scroll a lot to the right to read the full message? That's a very specific Link question, and I know Henriette is a Link user, so why not answer this here? Yeah. Although you guys not using Link might not be very interested, but let's do it.
I guess in this case, I would need to see a specific scenario because the full message is present in Link, but I think what Henriette implies here is that you need to scroll out to the right to see the entire message. So in this case, it might be a wrapping that is needed, and it might be where is the error messages originate from? Is it from SAP that sends the error message back? Of course, this could be solved by having it indented before sending it to Link. But it sounds also like there might be a feature with here for Link, making sure that the...
I was thinking, please take this back to the product team that you are a part of. And then we have a question from Fleming. What should be the argument for migrating from PIPO to CI now, well knowing that CI do not have the complete portfolio of capabilities yet, but assuming they will eventually be there in a few years' time along with a proper migration tool? That was a challenging question and maybe you can answer on behalf of the entire SAP organization, Daniel.
Yeah, so obviously I think we at Figaf have a good migration tool that can automate a lot of these things. When SAP tool will be feature comparable or be able to do these things, I have no idea. Hopefully this year, but I guess
you say hopefully this year, but Fleming here he's not that optimistic. Eventually, in a few years' time, that's not this year.
I don't know. So obviously there's the migration tool, and then there is also some missing functionalities in a cloud integration world that we have in the PI. And I guess we were kind of spoiled in the PI world. If we needed to restart messages, they will all just send message and you'd restart. No need to worry about anything like that. In a cloud integration world, you need to build flows either like we do or something else that put the message into a GMS queue and pick it out from there to ensure that the message is being delivered. I guess the thing you want to, the reason why you should start the migration now is, so obviously we have the 4 year, 5 years period. So you need to understand, will this solve, and what is the limitations that the SAP platform has, and how would you overcome these challenges? But obviously, there is a lot of scenarios where it makes sense. Okay, let's migrate in 2-3 years, because the platform will be more mature at that point in time. But I think the main one why I want to start a migration is to understand what the platform will do, how to operate it, and then maybe just do 10% of your integrations now, and then expand that in the next coming years, because then you know how to operate and how to continue with this platform.
So basically, the answer is to get some experience, but it might not be the time to move a very large PI solution right now, or am I getting that wrong?
If you have a large solution, probably it makes sense to understand how it works right now, what you can do, and what kind of features that you would be needing when it is being migrated, or when you need to migrate the bulk of the scenarios. And I guess obviously you want to compare, okay, does it make sense to migrate to PI worlds? Do we need to put it into somewhere else? Where do we get the easiest value for these things?
Okay, thank you. I hope that was useful, Fleming, although I feel that there's a reason why you might ask the question. Yeah, that's it for now. And then regarding that question, and then we have, I think we should say this is the last question here from Rikke, and that is for Daniel. We are in progress and migrating from PO to SCI, but have an issue that EO/IO is not supported. Do you know if there is any workaround for that? EO/IO.
So that's exactly once in order. And this is about being able to deliver a message one after another and ensure that no message is being delivered faster. I think there is some patterns that works around this and give you a way to work with those scenarios, but it is a little complicated to get around. So I think if you go into the SAP guide, there is some section on this. Otherwise, ping me and let's talk about how you'd actually do something like that.
Okay. So EO/IO is each order in order.
No, exactly once.
Exactly once in order. Okay, sorry, that's me not knowing this abbreviation. But I just want to turn to Pau. How would you look at this? Is this something that Link could help you with if you have to, as Daniel said, you have to do a workaround?
Well, it depends on if you need both of them. If you need the exactly once and you also need the order. Yeah, because the in order is often a problem when it comes to platforms that are asynchronously and that works in parallel, because you need to make sure that they don't get in front of each other, and that can be difficult to accomplish.
But how do we do it?
We don't do the well. If we need to do that, we would use the data repository part.
Yeah, exactly.
Where we would place these orders in a queue and make sure we only extract them as one has been delivered. But that wouldn't work if you have it is complicated if you have a huge amount of data at the same time, because you can only process it sequentially in sequence then, and not in parallel.
But that is the thing. If you want to do it in order, you have to do it in sequence.
Yeah, but maybe that's not the important part here. Maybe the important part is just the only ones.
And so the only ones is pretty clear with the duplicate. Sorry, Daniel.
This is the default one, and exactly once in order is the special case that you want to use for some scenarios, and you obviously need to be cautious of when you use it because it does cost performance.
Yeah, and that's what Pau is also addressing here. It is costing, but if it is important, then what I hear is, there's a workaround if you want to do it on SAP, the new integration platform in SAP, and what I hear from Pau is that exactly once is pretty easy in Link, and then if you want to do in order.
Yeah, exactly once you can use the duplicate check, but there is actually still an issue regarding, we'd still need to deliver it to SAP, and if we get an exception for that and we retry it, but actually they did process it, they just gave us an exception, then there is still no guarantee. So, we do support minimizing the problem of exactly once by introducing the duplicate check.
Yeah,
but
it's not solving any scenario.
It's not solving all scenarios. So in these kind of situations, this is more like business logic that should be placed in the ERP system regarding some way of preventing the same order of being created twice. But I guess that's probably more like a wish for SAP in this case.
Yeah, and then in order that can
that you use for this scenario. So I've also used that on some different backend system there where we need to drop this state master data, and the system did not know if something was overtaken. But I think there is way when you're building apps or application to actually say the order doesn't affect us, just make sure you have some kind of a timestamp so we can see if a message has been overtaken or not.
Okay, but as you can probably hear, Rikke, this is a complicated question, so thank you for that. We won't go into any more details right now, but you could get back to us afterwards and then I don't know, we would be happy to take the discussion with you. So that was it for today. Thank you, Daniel, and this was the first time with a remote guest. I hope from my perspective it went pretty well. There were some minor issues, and if you, our dear audience, if you're still with us, then don't hesitate to also give some feedback if you recognized anything about the sound or the placement of pow or whatever. Then just get back to us with that. That would be very much appreciated. And otherwise, let's just wave goodbye and say see you next time.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.